Eliminated in Q2. Again, the tires were cold. The lap was slow. The frustration? Visible. But this time, Lewis Hamilton didn't just question the car. He questioned everything. Mentally, I'm not okay. And what triggered that confession was the real problem Ferrari never solved. Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. He stood there, helmet off, eyes calm but distant, and said it without theater, without spin. Mentally, I'm not okay. For 2 decades, Lewis Hamilton has carried pressure like few others in sport. He's fought title battles to the final corner. He's taken on teams, institutions, and entire generations of rivals. But this wasn't about defeat. It was about erosion. Not of talent, but of faith in the machine, in the project, and perhaps in the decision he made to leave Mercedes. Q2 exits don't normally make headlines, but this one did. Not just because it happened to a 7-time world champion, but because of how it happened. No crash, no mechanical failure, just a slow, understeering Ferrari SF25 that refused to come alive again. In a session where Hamilton needed a clean execution to make Q3, the car didn't give him the tools. And when the tires crossed the start-finish line, the result was clear. 13th on the grid, 3/10 down on his teammate, and a world away from contention. It's not the number that hurts, it's the pattern. This wasn't a one-off. Hamilton has now faced repeated qualifying collapses due to tire temperature issues, especially on the rear axle. The team knows it, the data confirms it, and still, the problem remains unresolved. In modern Formula One, where preparation is everything, Ferrari entered qualifying with the wrong tools. And they handed them to one of the greatest drivers in history. Hamilton didn't sugarcoat the reality. He didn't deflect. The setup was fine, he explained. We just couldn't get the tires to work. That one sentence reveals the whole story, a driver executing perfectly in a car that is fundamentally failing to support it. The SF25 isn't broken in the dramatic sense. It starts, it turns, it finishes routes. But it's broken where it matters most, in its ability to respond, to engage with the tires, to become an extension of the driver rather than an obstacle. And when that happens, when a car becomes unpredictable, unrecoverable, it begins to take a toll not just on performance, but on belief. Hamilton has never lacked motivation. He's pushed through worse seasons than this. But belief is different. It's not about effort. It's about trust. Trust that the engineers see what you see. Trust that the tools in the simulator match the tarmac. And in Brazil, that trust faltered. The simulator said the car was quick. The stopwatch said otherwise. The silence in the Ferrari garage after Q2 said even more. Heads down. No immediate explanation. No finger pointing, just the quiet weight of underperformance. Because everyone knew what Hamilton meant when he said, mentally, I'm not okay. It wasn't a cry for sympathy. It was a professional sounding the alarm. A sign that something inside this project, this car, this team is out of sync. And if it doesn't realign soon, the cost may be far greater than one disappointing Saturday. From the outside, Hamilton's Q2 exit in Brazil looked like a lack of peace. But those who understand Formula One know better. This wasn't about a poor sector or a missed breaking point. It was about a car that refused to enter the performance window. The tires didn't switch on, particularly on the rear axle, and once that happens, it's over. In modern qualifying, if the rear tires are cold on your push lap, you're done before turn 4. The mistake wasn't made on the outlap. It was made on Friday. Ferrari had 1 hour of practice before Park Firm locked their setup. At that time, they ran hard compound tires almost exclusively, the C2S, trying to preserve softs for the sprint and quali. But the consequence of that decision was massive. They collected zero useful thermal data on the C4 softs. So when qualifying arrived on a cooler track, they had no calibration. They were blind, and Hamilton paid the price. As the session began, Hamilton's car looked stable, but not fast. Stability is not performance. The rear didn't step out. The balance wasn't aggressive. But that was the problem. Without rear rotation and tire engagement, the SF25 glided. It didn't bite. It didn't dig into the asphalt and generate cornering load. Every entry was conservative, every exit delayed. Not by choice, but by physics. The tires never reached their thermal threshold, and that meant lap time evaporated. Hamilton's on board told the story. His hands were smooth. His throttle application was clean. There were no visible mistakes. This wasn't a case of overdriving or underdriving. It was the performance ceiling of a car outside the tire window. In fact, Hamilton's lap was accurate, impressively so, considering the lack of grip. But in qualifying, precision without grip is meaningless. You cannot manufacture time when the car refuses to generate mechanical response. After the session, Hamilton was direct. "We thought we were much quicker than we actually are." That sentence didn't just reference lap time. It referenced simulation. Ferrari's internal projections had placed them in the mix. But simulation only works when tire modeling is accurate. And right now, Ferrari's models are consistently overestimating grip. That's not a driver issue. That's a structural flaw in how the car is understood before it hits the track. What makes this difficult to accept is the scale of the driver. Lewis Hamilton is still performing at an elite level. His sprint drive earlier that day, gaining positions on pure racecraft with clean tire management, showed it. But when the tires refuse to wake up in qualifying, there's no second lap, no margin to recover. The team had one chance to get the prep right, and they didn't. Not for the first time this year. And that's the problem. The SF25 is not a slow car on paper. In wind tunnel runs and CFD simulations, it generates excellent downforce at high speed. Its floor architecture is aggressive, built around narrow tunnels, hard edges, and a low rake angle that maximizes underbody airflow. That makes the car efficient when conditions are perfect. But the moment track grip drops or temperature falls even slightly, that same architecture becomes a weakness. It needs commitment, and Brazil did not offer the conditions to support it. Ferrari's engineering model relies on aerodynamic efficiency first, mechanical grip second. In qualifying, where one-lap tire activation is everything, that priority becomes a problem. The SF25 simply does not generate enough mechanical load to wake up the rear tires quickly. It relies on high-speed aero loading, but Interlagos doesn't provide long enough straights or consistent throttle zones to trigger that behavior. That means Hamilton's rears stayed cold through Sector 1 and were unusable by Sector 2. Telemetry confirmed the failure in real time. Rear tire temperatures on Hamilton's outlap were marginal, but instead of increasing into the push lap, as would be expected with lateral and longitudinal load, they dropped. That means the car wasn't transferring enough energy into the contact patch. Every corner became a waiting game. Hamilton wasn't tiptoeing by choice. He was waiting for grip that never arrived. And by the time he hit the final sector, the lap was beyond recovery. The irony is that Ferrari's setup wasn't aggressive. The ride height was conservative. The diff settings were balanced. The engineers believed they'd built a stable platform, but that stability came at the cost of heat. Without enough sliding force, not oversteer, but controlled flex, the tire's core temperature never rose. The car looked clean on screen, but clean is not fast in qualifying unless it's underpinned by grip. And the SF25 had none on Saturday. Hamilton, for his part, extracted the maximum possible. His minimum speed through turns 6 and 7 was nearly identical to Leclerc's. His braking markers were consistent, but where Leclerc's rear tires responded mid-corner, Hamilton's didn't. The difference? Track position and prep. Leclerc hit traffic in Q1, forcing a harder outlap that inadvertently warmed his tires more. Hamilton followed the team plan and suffered for it. This is the true cost of Ferrari's thermal inconsistency. Even when the car behaves in simulation, it does not translate on track. And no driver, not even Hamilton, can reprogram physics in a single flying lap. The SF25's failure wasn't catastrophic. It was invisible, subtle, and those are the hardest failures to fix because they live in the margins where titles are won and lost. It was one of the shortest interviews of the weekend, but one sentence was enough. Asked how he was feeling after his Q2 exit, Hamilton paused, looked directly into the camera, and answered, "Mentally, I'm not okay." Don't get angry. Not sarcasm. Just brutal honesty from a man who has spent nearly 20 years building a reputation for emotional control under fire. For someone who's fought through controversies, title deciders, media storms, and racial abuse, that admission was unprecedented. This wasn't theater. It wasn't a dig at the team. It was something rare in Formula One, vulnerability. And from Lewis Hamilton, it meant even more. He has built his career on absorbing pressure, lifting teams, and finding optimism in mechanical despair. But in that moment, it was clear the pressure Ferrari is placing on him isn't physical. It's psychological. The SF25 hasn't just cost him positions. It's cost him trust. And when trust breaks, even a champion begins to look tired. The weight of expectation was always going to be enormous. Hamilton joined Ferrari not just to win, but to build something historic to echo Schumacher, to lift a legendary team back to glory. That takes belief, patience, endurance. But after yet another session where his execution was perfect and the car let him down, belief begins to crack. When you know you've done your job and the system fails around you, that's when frustration turns into fatigue. There's a difference between disappointment and concern. Disappointment fades. Concern lingers. In Hamilton's voice, we heard the latter. This wasn't "I'll bounce back." This was "I'm not sure this is working." And if a driver like Hamilton, whose brand, identity, and legacy are built on relentless positivity and resolve, starts to question the process publicly, it's a signal to the team, the fans, and the media. Something deeper is wrong. And yet, even in that honesty, Hamilton remained composed. He didn't blame engineers. He didn't call out strategy. He didn't shout, because that's who he is, a statesman of the sport. But make no mistake, the message was loud. A world champion does not speak that way unless the disappointment has passed through anger and reached something heavier. The kind that only sets in when performance issues stop being temporary and start becoming patterns. At that moment, Lewis Hamilton became more than just a driver out in Q2. He became a mirror reflecting back the gap between Ferrari's promise and its execution. And while points can be recovered, trust cannot. Not easily, not quickly. Brazil wasn't just another tough weekend. It was a pivot, a turning point in tone. And what follows now isn't just technical recovery, it's emotional repair. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.